Hello, everyone. Can you believe it's been almost 6 months since I've been on here, rambling on about things few, if anyone, cares about? Crazy, right? Time does fly when you're having fun. By the way, I think that saying should be changed to when you're aging, but that is a discussion for another time. Let's talk about pets. No, not sex, pets. Jeez, get your mind out of the gutter. My first memory of wanting a pet was when I was in Form 1 of secondary school and my friend Gwyneth's family was leaving to go back to the UK. She offered to leave me her 2 guinea pigs, and I wanted them so badly. But my father said, no way. He said he knew he would end up having to look after them, and as they were male and female and quite horny little critters, that we would soon have guinea pigs by the dozen. I was devastated. They were so cute. Many years later, one of my friends was to come upon a guinea pig on her kitchen counter, immediately determined that it was a rat, and end its life rather prematurely. So convinced was she that it was a rat that she sent me a photo of the dead guinea pig, at which point I let her know that it was not a rat, but a cute, fluffy guinea pig. To which she replied, "Well, what are you doing in my kitchen?" She was unrepentant. May he rest in peace. But that is another story. Now, I'm not one for exotic pets. I'm pretty much just a dog person, really. My mother did not like cats. She said they look as if they would attack you if you corner them. To which I replied, wouldn't you? Just don't corner them. But she wasn't having it. I have to confess that I'm not crazy about having a cat for a pet either. I feel like cats are never really domesticated the way dogs are. I feel like they stay with us for food and maybe the occasional cuddle, but they could wake up any given morning and say to themselves, "I've had enough of these people and I'm out of here," and leave. I once watched a cat try to catch a pigeon, and that did nothing to change my mind about having a pet cat. They operate just like lions and tigers, just smaller. Yeah, no pet cats for me. My brother and his wife, however, in their very British way, have always had cats. Whenever my mom spent time with them, she and the cats would be at war. One of their cats, a Burmese named Elizabeth, seemed to sense that mom didn't care for her. And so she would climb up on the back of any chair my mother was sitting in and look down on her with disdain. Freaked my mother right out. One night, my brother and his wife gave up their bedroom so my parents could sleep there. My mom made sure all the cats were out and locked the door, only to discover that there was a cat flap when during the night, while she was in 4th gear sleep, she suddenly found herself with way more company in the bed than she was okay with. To hear her tell it, she was flinging cats left, right, and center before they got the message and left. They also once had a blind cat named Liam. He was humongous, and because he was blind, he didn't have that stealthy way that other cats have. He was great. If I were ever to have a pet cat, he would have to be blind. What? I'd get a blind cat. I wouldn't make him blind. Jeez, what kind of person do you think I am? Anyway, as I said, I'm a dog person. Now, when I was growing up in the Caribbean many moons ago, dogs were seen as outdoor pets, and many times not as pets at all, but more as cheap security officers. Not like these days where people treat their dogs pretty much the same as their children. Better sometimes, if we're honest. Recently, there was a massive event for dogs in the savannah, complete with invitations. My mother would have died. My parents never had purebred dogs. Closest they came was a Doberman mix, who could get over a fence or a wall in a time that would put many Marines in basic training to shame. No, they were all about mutts or pothounds, as we call them here. They lived in the yard, and when anything seemed amiss or anyone was at the gate or thereabouts, they would bark their heads off, and in return, they were fed regularly and left to run around the yard until they grew old and died. Now, this is not to suggest that my parents didn't care for their dogs. I mean, my mom, and after she died, my father, would cook for their dogs every day in a special pot that was designated the dog pot. They just had a different relationship with them. It was more transactional. Now, most of these dogs would not attack an intruder if their lives depended on it, and usually lost interest once you entered the yard. But of course, people like the postman and others on the other side of the fence did not know that. Naming the dogs was also a thing. We had one called Whitey. 3 guesses what color she was. No imagination. There was Lady, Hobbs, Twisty, so named because according to my mother, he had chassis issues, and George. Interestingly enough, George was named by my niece, Georgina, who everyone calls George. Go figure. They even had a dog named Laventil. I was living abroad when she joined the family and was always too afraid of the response to ask why she was called that. After all, my parents' worst enemies wouldn't call them politically correct. When I lived on my own, I had house dogs. One was a Pompek, whose name I have forgotten, and the other was the most delightful little Dachshund named Oscar. The Pompek scorned Oscar and would cross from one side of the house to the other by walking on the furniture so she wouldn't have to go down on the floor and interact with him. Poor Oscar wanted to be her friend so bad, but he could barely keep his long body and legs all going in the same direction, so he certainly couldn't climb up on anything. She was such a bitch. But yeah, we were always dog people. I lived with a guy for a bit who bought a baby boa constrictor from some dodgy character on a street corner. It was the only time I held a snake. And they aren't slimy. Who knew? But small as that thing was, I could feel it trying to squeeze my hand as I held it. I broke up with that guy soon after. Not because he thought keeping a pet boa under his bed was a good idea, but because he was certifiable. From what I hear, his relationship with the snake didn't end so well either. No surprise there. I also met a gentleman recently who boasted that he kept large snakes as pets and bred mice to feed them. I think it's safe to say that we aren't going to be BFFs. Reptiles of all kinds are out of the question as pets. Creeping, crawling, jumping, slithering, all of them are not to come near me. And don't give me that they're harmless speech. If a toad, frog, lizard, or an iguana was to even touch me, I would die. So that makes them potential killers. I put up with those translucent ones who live behind the pictures on my walls and make that ridiculous noise, which I suppose translates into, I'm here and you can't see me, because I'm afraid that if I spray them, they will fall off the wall and make that god-awful lizard hitting the ground splat that would haunt me forever. Yeah, no reptile pets for me. When my children were little, we got them turtles and fish to look after. The turtles fared okay, but my second boy would sneak back to the fish tank in the night and feed the goldfish after we had already fed them. Needless to say, they didn't last long. It didn't seem to bother him when they died either, which I suppose could be a cause of some concern. Maybe he enjoyed the flushing down the toilet ritual a bit more than is usual as well. I should probably make a note of that. Anyway, I have to say, I think fish are pointless pets. I mean, it's not like they wave back or even look in your direction. May as well have plants. At least they're good for the environment. I think birds are stupid pets as well. Unless it's one of the ones who can talk. They're pretty cool, although generally illegal to have. My grandmother's neighbor had a macaw that used to fool visitors into thinking someone was home when they were out. They'd stand at the gate calling, "Good afternoon," and he'd respond from inside the house, "Good afternoon." That would sometimes go on for ages before they gave up. As children, we thought it was hilarious. But apart from the talking birds, the only thing birds are known for really is flying. So what do people do? They buy a bird and keep it in a cage where it can't fly. Now, how pointless is that? And then on weekends, they would take the bird in the cage to the savannah and hang the cage on a tree so the bird could watch other birds flying around and probably get depressed. I mean, come on. So I will stick to dogs. Unless someone wanted to gift me a panda. Now that would be a pet. I love me some pandas. Anyway, thanks for listening to my very random musings about pets. I feel like I should say I won't take so long before doing another one of these, but let's be honest, I might. So until next time, whenever that is, I'm just saying.